something now out of this world. This month, NASA released this new photo of the Earth taken from lunar orbit. Isn't that stunning? The picture is composed of a series of shots taken by NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter in October. The photo reminds us of the iconic blue marble image taken during the Apollo 17 mission to space in 1972, but Blue marble was not the first picture taken of the Earth from space. It was in 1968. Astronaut William Anders took the photograph known as Earthrise aboard the Apollo 8 mission. This was the first time we on Earth were able to see our planet in color, and boy, did it inspire the world. For more about this iconic image and the story behind Apollo 8's groundbreaking mission that really wasn't supposed to happen, I want to bring in Robert Zimmerman. He is the author of Genesis, the story of Apollo 8, and he is joining us now. Great to see you. Thanks for your time.
Amra, thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
Oh, absolutely. Let's get a little background on this Apollo 8 mission, because again, as I said, this wasn't something that was supposed to happen. It was extremely dangerous, wasn't it, the mission?
Yes, exactly right. Because of a rearrangement of missions and the delay in building the lunar module that would land on the moon, this mission didn't have a mission. They were supposed to test the lunar module. It wasn't ready. So NASA, just only 6 months before, made the decision that, instead of just going around the Earth, why don't we send it to the moon? And they estimated the chances for success were 50-50. And they thought that was good odds. So they launched this mission with a 50-50 expectation of success.
50-50 are good odds. That's incredible. I'm sorry to cut you off there, because I was reading that the wife of the commander of Apollo 8 was actually relieved when she heard the chances of your husband returning safely is 50-50. Those are good odds back then.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They were willing to take a risk. They felt they had to win the Cold War, and this was an opportunity to do it. And Susan Borman thought her husband was going to die in orbit around the moon, and they reassured her by telling her, well, we think the odds are as good as 50-50, and that didn't really reassure her. She ended up writing a letter prepared to deal with that fact to the public, but 50-50. That just gives you that idea. This was how important it was to the nation to get to the moon before the Soviets did. And they were willing to take that chance. So they were going to the moon. And I should add that because they did not have the lunar module, this mission had no backup if something went wrong. One of the other astronauts on Apollo 8 was Jim Lovell, who was the commander of Apollo 13. If what happened on Apollo 13 had happened on Apollo 8, Jim Lovell would have been dead in about 5 minutes. They had no lunar module as a lifeboat on that mission.
It's really incredible, and the courage it must have taken for these astronauts and the families to take this mission. If you will, give us some historical context here. I want to show that Earthrise photo, that iconic image from 1968, and just remind us what kind of time this was in 1968 and how this photo actually instilled hope for Americans. I mean, this is a really tumultuous time in American history, and when this photo came out, this really lifted up the American people, didn't it?
Oh, well, yes. You have to understand that 1968 was right in the middle of the 60s. That was the year that Robert Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King. You had the riots. You had riots throughout Europe. You had the Soviets invading Czechoslovakia, ending the Prague Spring. You had the Tet Offensive in Vietnam. Of course, you had the whole Vietnam War. You had the Democratic Convention in 68 with riots. It was a very bad year in general. And at the end of the year, Apollo 8 happened. The astronauts orbited the moon on Christmas Eve. They read the first 12 verses of the Bible while in orbit. And then during the mission, they were not prepared to take an Earthrise picture. I should tell you some of the history in this picture. They took the picture. They were doing maneuvers, waiting to see the Earth rise, but only to maneuver themselves. The Earth comes up over the horizon, and they suddenly all realize, my God, we didn't schedule to take this. Frank Borman quickly snaps a picture in black and white. They then scrambled to change the film to color, and then Bill Anders took the famous picture. And one more thing, Amra. Bill Anders did not frame the picture with the horizon on the bottom as we normally see it. He framed it with the horizon on the right because he saw himself not as an earthbound person like we do, but as a spaceman orbiting the moon just as the Earth did. And so he saw the Earth coming up sideways. And it's interesting, Frank Borman always frames his picture with the horizon on the bottom because Frank Borman is not that much of a space geek. He really is more interested in test pilot and winning the Cold War, while Anders was much more interested in exploring the heavens. So that tells you that's a space-bound perspective that Americans, most people on Earth don't have. They always put the horizon on the bottom.
That's an interesting... It's an interesting perspective. It's really fascinating to talk to you, Robert Zimmerman. I wish we had more time. And little did they know, the crew of Apollo 8, that this would, inspire the global environment movement. It's been called the most influential environmental photograph ever taken. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Robert Zimmerman. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Emma.